Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Solo Requiem, and welcome to the final debate for the Coliseum. This has been a long stretch tournament starting with 16 individuals interested in debate and the pursuit of knowledge and truth. And now we are only down two. Both Zulu and Danikin have showed impressive judging results by destroying their competition at every point they've faced so far. Both were on opposite sides of the brackets and are now facing each other in the final. These two titans will clash, but only one will remain standing. Today, the final topic of the debate is this. Economic growth ought to be prioritized over environmental protection. Zulu is taking a positive position while Danikin is taking a negative. A reminder to the audience that both speakers consensually agreed to partake in this debate and face each other on this topic in this tournament. Without further ado, whenever Zulu is ready, we'll start his timer. He has 5 minutes, but I understand he says he's going to be going a little bit overtime, so I'll keep recording of that.
In this debate, I'm...
So whenever...
Yeah. I'm sorry. Are we good to go?
Yeah, good to go.
Alright. In this debate, I'm taking the position that economic growth ought to be prioritized over environmental protection. My argument is that 1. Humanity should prosper. 2. Economic growth means greater prosperity. 3. Environmental protection means lower prosperity. 4. Therefore, economic growth should be prioritized over environmental protection. This argument cuts the very core motivation of the environmentalist movement. Namely, the environmental protectionist seeks to destroy man's success and happiness here on Earth and return him to the dirt that he has pulled himself out of. This is apocalyptic in the very core sense of the word. The defining mark of an apocalypse isn't that there is some zombie virus or a meteor hit, or even that people died. Rather, the defining characteristic behind all apocalypses is that there is a mass breakdown in the capital structure. It is this capital structure, this collection of factors that are combined to produce further factors, eventually terminating in consumer goods, that is the mark of civilization. Economic growth means a growth in capital structure. It is turning away from dirty, brutal nature towards the clean and infinite power of man. The environmentalist inversion of this is a desire that man live not by using his mind to alter his nature to be habitable for him, but rather that he live as some lower animal, fending for survival and adapting to whatever circumstances he happens to be placed in. But just as a dog cannot live as a plant would by expecting his food to come to him, so too can a man not live like a dog does by adapting himself to his environment rather than the other way around. We are told that there's an environmental disaster facing us. What exactly is this disastrous towards? Man or non-man? It cannot be man. The human environment has never been better. Our lives are immeasurably superior to those primitives who lived every day by hunting for their food and shivering in cold caves at night. Rather than this, the disaster is faced not by man, but by non-man. It is non-man that the environmentalist tells us that we must sacrifice for the sake of. We should not continue to conquer nature with our miraculous technology, they tell us, but rather we must restrict our growth, restrict our births, restrict our very minds. What the environmentalist is claiming when he wishes that man stop burning fossil fuels and stop glaciers melting is that those glaciers have a superior moral claim to the ice that they contain than does man to his own life and well-being. But on what standard do they base this? The standard is certainly not the standard of a man's own life. But there exists no other possibilities. There exists here a deadly package deal. The environmentalist, like all altruists, preach that the sacrifice of man is the proper duty. They package together the fundamental questions in ethics of 1. What are values? And 2. Who should be the beneficiary of values? The altruist substitutes the second for the first. He tells us that anything is good if it's done in self-sacrifice. In the case of the environmentalist, done in sacrifice to inanimate matter. He faces here an infinite recursion. What are values? Values are when values are provided to others. This is the core of the environmentalist premise. It is the latest form of the bromide that man must sacrifice his own achievements, because he achieved them. It used to be, in the words of FDR, that we must sacrifice for the underprivileged 1/3 of a nation. Then this sacrifice was stretched to include the underprivileged of the entire globe. Now we are told that we must sacrifice for the sake of seaweeds, bugs, and rainforests. The goal is always kept in mind, that man must sacrifice. It's just now that the collectivist has to change his tactics. The attack on the luxuries of modern times no longer points only at the rich, allowing for the poor to be his favourite group. These luxuries extend even to the most destitute modern man. Now he must attack the luxuries and claim mud and soil as his favourite group. Still, he attacks the luxuries. They hate man's achievements and oppose him on the grounds that he does achieve. To concretize this, consider the following passage from the ill-named Life magazine, published following massive blackouts in the eastern United States. It shouldn't happen every evening, but a crisis like the lights going out has its good points. In the first place, it deflates human smugness about our miraculous technology, which, at least in the area of power distribution and control, now stands revealed as utterly flawed. and it's somehow delicious to contemplate the fact that all of our beautiful brains and all of those wonderful plans and all of that marvellous equipment has combined to produce a system that is unreliable. The love and pining for the environment that we often see these days has not come out of nowhere. It is a symptom of just how fully man has conquered nature in a modern society. Just as you might enjoy watching a horror movie from the comfort of your living room, you might enjoy going on a nature hike, because in either case, you know that you're not in any real danger. These so-called natural environments are often not as natural as we might think. In my country, the great forests of England were shaped by medieval loggers, and the moors of the Scottish Highlands were created by the most industrious of the Bronze Age farmers. It is places such as the Darien Gap, Antarctica, and the Sahara Desert that are the true representatives of nature. These locations are essentially uninhabitable by man. Even the tribesmen who live in the Amazon rainforest make clearings and burn away undergrowth. The Eskimos of the northern Canada build igloos for warmth, and the men of the desert irrigate the soil with groundwater. Nowhere do you find man prosperous in some hippie harmony with nature. The environmental conservationists are staunch opponents of middle-class passivity. They defy conventional attitudes, clamour for action, and scream for change. All the while they are staunch proponents of a status quo with respect to the natural world. The motive is laid bare. Man must sprint back into the dirt, back into the animal kingdom, back into the grave, where no production may take place. To quote Ayn Rand, in their cosmology, man is infinitely malleable, controllable, and dispensable. Nature is sacrosanct. It is only man and his work, his achievements, his mind, that can be violated with impunity, while nature is not to be defiled by a single bridge or skyscraper. It is only human beings that they do not hesitate to murder. It is only human schools that they bomb, only human habitations that they burn, only human property that they loot, while they crawl on their bellies in homage to the reptiles and marshlands, whom they protect from the encroachments of human airfields, and humbly seek the guidance of the stars on how to live in this incomprehensible planet. So, to sum up, the conservationists want to conserve anything, except man, and control nothing, except man. And that is the end of my opening statement.
Okay, thank you. Apologies earlier if I had a mic lag for anyone listening. Danny Kim, whenever you're ready to go, let me know.
I'm ready.
All right.
When one tugs at a single thing in nature, he finds it attached to the rest of the world. John Muir. It is because I agree with both the facts and sentiments behind this statement that I negate the resolution, economic growth ought to be prioritized over environmental protection. Observation 1, burden of proof. In order to successfully negate this resolution, it is not my burden to prove that environmental protection ought to be prioritized over economic growth 100% of the time, but rather 51%. Contention 1. Sustainability requires environmental protection. Sustainability requires environmental protection. History teaches that time and time again, the result of a culture which prioritizes economic growth over environmental protection is a toxic mentality which eventually places man in the role of God, receives no value and respect and gratitude for the resources which he is given, but rather is free to exploit them to a grossly unsustainable extent, long-term sustainability without environmental protection first.